Okay.
We're good.
Mhm.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending today's meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, and this is a meeting of the Commission, this meeting of the Committee on Human Resources and Human Rights. Today we'll be receiving an update from our Commission on Human Rights. Present, I have Council Committee members Richard Conti, Committee Member Jack Flynn, and also Committee Member Ms. Jenny Farrell. Also, we have Councilman Kelly Kimbrough joining us, and also we have Dr. Brenda Robinson, who is the Commission on Human Rights Chair, and also Ms. Angelica Kane, who is our City's Chief Diversity Officer. Am I missing anybody? No. Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started. I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Brenda Robinson for an update.
Okay, well, thank you all very much,
Oh,
you
you cut out.
guys.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You cut out a little bit.
Oh, okay. You move a little bit closer. Thank you all for having me and sharing a little bit of your time for me to give an update and the report. One of the things I did today was attach the 2016-2017 report, and I sent that to your email, and I hope everyone has received that. And in that report, one of the things that I do mention, and one of the things that I did follow up on, the last time I presented before you was back in March 2020. I believe maybe two of you were there probably, Richard Conti and maybe Jack Flynn, when I presented to the committee back in 2016. I submitted a PowerPoint at that particular time, which I just relocated and we'll send it out to everyone as well in the event that you're interested in it. One of the things in 2016 that I mentioned in that presentation was the issue of obligations. The Commission on Human Rights has 4 obligations, and one of those, which has been very difficult, is the receipt and the resolution of complaints. And that is something that I dealt with a lot during that presentation. We had a large conversation about it, even with Councilwoman Fahey as well. It's been an ongoing issue, and actually it continues to be an ongoing issue. And if you look in our report, the 2016-2017 report, it mentions a whole lot of work that we've done in regards to complaints, trying to receive complaints. We created a complaint process. We contacted New York Division of Human Rights. That was an issue because in the past, they presented an MOU with New York State Division of Human Rights to allow us to resolve complaints. At that particular time, the commission started back in 2005. That particular time, the New York State Division of Human Rights declined that request. Well, we requested again and they declined again. And I do believe there's good reasons for that. And one of which is that we don't have the resources nor the support to actually adjudicate a complaint. So I do understand that piece, and we adjusted our complaint process accordingly. So when we do receive a complaint, the complaint is automatically sent to the New York State Division of Human Rights. And our piece is to obtain that complaint and review it, and as a commission, ascertain if there's anything that we can do to alleviate, to mediate any type of situations or areas of conflict. It could be that we may meet with a particular organization that routinely submits complaints or have issues of that sort. The ongoing issue is the receipt of complaints. So in 2016, if you look at that report, at the time that I even presented to the committee, we had not received not one report since the institution of the Commission on Human Rights. So this has been an ongoing discussion. So the 2016, 2017 era, we worked on it. We had several executive directors. I do believe when Miss Jaleesa Joseph came on board, she was really efficient, and we did develop a process where we did receive some complaints, and in fact, we received a total of, I believe it was 6 complaints between 16 and 2017, and I did include that in the report. But the issue continues to remain in regards to the receipt of complaints. Now, I received the email in regards to the outstanding report, this 2017 report, and I just did want to speak to our bylaws and the omnibus law that speaks to the reporting that the commission does. And as you all know, because you all were on the email, that the commission shall file a biannual report with the Common Council and the mayor summarizing complaints filed in accordance with Article 3 of Chapter 48 of this code and the status thereof. Now, that's the biannual report that we've been doing. Although we've been late, we've been doing that. But the other piece of that says the commission shall additionally file an annual report with the Common Council and the mayor on or about January 31st, summarizing its activities of the previous year. So past practice has been that the report has been biannual, and we have rolled up all our activities for those 2 years in that report. So I just really wanted to clarify the conversation that we had via email, because the Commission on Human Rights has not submitted any annual report. Past practice has been a biannual report, and we roll up those activities into that report. So I just certainly wanted to get that out there and clarify that. I did want to move along to a few other things. With our presentation last time we spoke, like I said, one of the big things was our obligation to receive and resolve complaints. At that particular time, we asked for the Common Council's help in really taking a look at the omnibus law, what our obligations are, what the expectation is, because we have no feasible way to resolve any complaints. In fact, Schenectady County, which has a paid commission, does the same thing that we do. They don't have an MOU, and they send all their complaints to New York State Division of Human Rights. So I was looking for some clarity, some revision of that particular law, and folks to really take a good look at it to see what the City of Albany Commission on Human Rights really can do and what we can't with the resources that we actually have. Such as Westchester County, and I mentioned that in the report, they receive, resolve, and do all the things that New York State Division of Human Rights does. And they also have an MOU, but they have about 12 lawyers, paid staff, and a whole bunch of other things that we do not. So I certainly wanted to bring that to your attention as well. Moving forward, one of the other issues that I had that I would certainly want to bring to the table was the equity agenda. I did support the equity agenda, especially from the conversations that I've had with some folks prior to the equity agenda being approved. But here to date, we have received no reports, as you all know, that the commission was partnering with administrative services and really reviewing these reports through an equity lens and really making recommendations and things of that sort. The report has not, reports have been requested but have not been received, and I've sent emails, and we all are aware of that. I'm looking for this equity agenda to be reviewed and revised to be accurate and reflect what is really the status and what's really going on. To date, we have not received any reports, and I don't want the Commission on Human Rights to be in a position as to make it seem as though the commission is able to force a report, obtain a report. We have no power over that. And I think some of that language in the equity agenda and some of the feedback I'm getting from other folks, they seem to think that we are overseeing something that we're actually not. Yes, we have that equity agenda, but the Commission on Human Rights has no power. We have no power to make a particular part of the city give us a report. We don't make the report, just like we don't have power over the complaints, how they come to us, or whether we get them or not. So the equity agenda really needs to be clarified. It needs to be straightforward, transparent, and really say what it actually means and be reflective of what really is going on in regards to equity. I've also heard in the meeting that the equity agenda was going well. I base whether something is going well or not on data, and I haven't seen any data. So again, we need to certainly revise that equity agenda to really reflect what is going on, especially for a group like ours, a commission like ours, not to be put in a position where there's an expectation that is unreasonable. And right now, there's an unreasonable expectation because we have no say-so and no authority over any type of reports. A few items that I mentioned in 2016 when I spoke in regards to the need for partnership, the need for inclusion of the Commission on Human Rights. Some of those things have improved, such as we have been included on the listserv, which is very good. So we get the emails from the City of Albany. I think that's great. So we're updated. Ms. Kane has been updating our website. She has been trying to coordinate loose ends as best she can as well. And I guess everyone knows that the executive director's job has somewhat changed. They have a lot of other tasks that are needed, not just being staff to the Commission on Human Rights. So we're kind of battling for her time, and she's that one person trying to do all of that. But I do feel that that piece, far as getting the communications, because previously we didn't get any communications, we didn't know anything that was going on in the City of Albany, and it is very good to be on that listserv. One of the other things is being included on a few things, such as the police reform collaborative. I think that's a good thing. I do think more still needs to be done. Our commissioners are working very hard in the community. One of the things that we identified as well is the vacancies. We had a lot of vacancies and a lot of commissioners in 2016 and 2017 that did not show up for meetings, so quorum was an issue. But I think going forward now, I think we've had good meetings. Also, we still have, I believe, 2 vacancies, which should be will be filled soon. And we still have that issue, though, of these complaints. Even with the reporting, even with the omnibus law, you know, they took a blurb out and sent it to me, and I read it all the time for years. Even with that, even with the laws, because the law says, as far as the report goes, it says summarizing complaints, right? Well, we have no control over when we get those. So if we get no complaints, I mean, and also it says under the executive director's duties that the executive director compiles written reports. Well, we do that together, and I think that's a good thing. It's just that it's a deficit when we don't get these complaints. So again, that is an ongoing issue. The issue of this equity agenda really needs to be addressed because it's an ongoing conversation. And I think clarifying that is very important as we move forward. We cannot tout that we have an equity agenda and someone's overseeing, or not even overseeing, reviewing things with an equity lens when we don't even have anything. So we need to be very transparent in what we're doing. A few things that I wanted to mention too, far as some things that I want to look at going forward. One, of course, is the revision of the equity agenda to remove that burden of the commission for obtaining reports, because we don't need that burden. We don't need people emailing us or asking us about where's the reports. We email other folks and say, please, can you get us that report? Because we don't have any authority. And some people have that misconception that we do, but we do not. Any expectation of the commission being accountable for the reports needs to be removed. I do have a couple of other things that I would like to see, and this is with mandatory education city of Albany for all the employees. Now, first, I do want to back up and just mention, our civil unrest with Black Lives Matter. Our commissioners, including myself, have been very active in being involved, the community engagement, which is very important. We also try to clarify and de-escalate as best we can certain situations. So I think I applaud all the commissioners who, of course, volunteer for this duty. They really do a good job, and I really appreciate that. And our vice chair is Rosie Love, and I think she just popped on, and I do appreciate all the commissioners. One thing that I requested previously, and I don't know how much of this has been done or not been done, is the mandatory education for all cities employees, especially managers and supervisors. And those mandatory educations that I've requested a few times was, one was the EEO, the no fear, the whistleblower right and protection education as a mandatory, the mandatory education on the complaint process, the EEO and the New York State Division of Human Rights process. A third was the mandatory prevention of workplace harassment. And the fourth mandatory that I was requesting was diversity and inclusion, which would also include bias and racism training. And along with the bias and racism training, this will be an annual mandatory training. And we all recognize that these type of trainings are not a one and done, especially implicit bias training. It's something that has to be reinforced and ongoing. It's not a certificate type of program. It has to be reinforced. When it's not, folks revert back to their same behaviors as previous. And again, I do want to thank Ms. Angelica Kane for her hard work. I do know that she has several other obligations with her job, but I do appreciate her time and her support, as well as the council and the mayor. So do you have any questions for me?
Dr. Robinson, for all your work and all your hard work and efforts. Really appreciate it, and what you and the commission and the commissioners mean to the city, especially during this time that we're in. It's a reassuring thing to know that we do have a organization, our group, looking at some of these inequities and civil unrest around the country and addressing it. So appreciate that. So I'm going to open up the floor to council members to ask questions, comments.
I have.
Yeah. Richard.
Are we doing the raised hand, or do you just want to?
I guess we can just chime in. There's a few of us. We'll just...
Yeah, but fine. Okay, I just wanted to touch on a few things. One is on the complaints, and maybe there is a need to look at that again. Going back to 1991, 92, I think, when the human rights law was enacted. There was a provision in there because it included sexual orientation, which was not covered under state law. Therefore, the State Division of Human Rights would not investigate complaints. There was a provision. There were provisions in there that related to. I remember the law department having a process to try to investigate and resolve complaints, and there was also reference to the Human Rights Commission. At the time, the Human Rights Commission was established administratively. And then there was a long period when there was no Human Rights Commission until the council reestablished it, I guess, in 2005. Yeah. But now, and then of course we added gender identity later. But now, since both of those categories are covered under state law, and the State Division has the enforcement authority, does it make sense to re-examine whether or not what the expectation is on the Human Rights Commission to investigate those, or they should just really be, I mean, to the extent that there can be an amicable resolution, but should they basically be referred or basically to the State Division of Human Rights? And would that take that out of your wheelhouse, you might say?
Well, as far as the complaints go, they're already referred. So everything,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's gender identity or not, we're referring. But to have a City of Albany Commission on Human Rights, you need to be aware of the type of complaints that are coming through the city. New York State, when they give us their, when they're giving us the data, right? We know that the data of complaints, employment based on race, is the largest complaint that New York State gets, but we don't have the breakdown of what is going on in our city. So if we're getting complaints and they're referred to New York State and they also come to us to make us aware, at least we know what's going on right here in the city of Albany. And it could be a particular organization or business or whatever where commissioners can go intervene, mediate, talk to, educate. It could be a host of things that we may be valuable in that situation. And New York State's still going to do their job, but we have a job too, as far as knowing what exactly is going on in our city.
So they do now share that information with you, so you do know what complaints are filed with the state?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, I'm just wondering if you know the complaints that are filed directly with the state that come from the city of Albany versus ones that might go through you that you refer on.
No.
You just know what?
No, and complaints don't go through us anyway. They go straight to the EO office with Miss Kane, and it's up to them whether they're going to give them, forward them or not. But their main objective, and she can speak, their main objective is to make sure they timely get forwarded to New York State Division of Human Rights, and that's what the division certainly wants, and we comply with that.
Okay.
May I just clarify? So I've been in this position for a little bit over a year now, and in the beginning, when occasionally I would get a phone call or an email about a complaint that wasn't internal, wasn't something that I could handle, I would go through this process of like taking down their name and their number and having them fill out this form, but then it turns out it would always result in a referral. So it really prolonged the process for them, and it would set up this expectation that we were able to do something, which ultimately, no matter what, it always winds up being a referral. And so, as Dr. Robinson has just mentioned, the priority is to get them to somebody who can actually assist. So now when I get these phone calls, as soon as I know it's not an internal complaint that I actually have some jurisdiction to handle, I will refer them to the Division of Human Rights or the Attorney General's office because of the importance of them reaching the right person.
Okay.
So one thing that's fallen by the wayside is the work that we did in 16 and 17 was both developed a spreadsheet where we communicated back and forth what these complaints were. Even though they went to the Division of Human Rights, we also had the ability or were informed, were able to sit and discuss what complaints came through. So I think that's an important piece that's missing, but here we are.
Okay. Just really hitting on the equity agenda issue. I mean, the way the ordinance was written, the council really was taken out of the role in terms of oversight on this, and it was all delegated to the mayor's office. But the Human Rights Commission is responsible for reviewing and enhancing and providing recommendations to the mayor, and policy recommendations, et cetera. So I gather you're really not feel you're in a position to do that because you don't have the information that you feel you need at this point. And there's also a very specific provision in here where in terms of where it says the mayor and the commissioner or Department of Administrative Services develops a communication strategy for the summer jobs, job fairs, workforce development, training centers, civil service training to residents, et cetera. And that communication strategy is supposed to be submitted to the Human Rights Commission for enhancement and recommendation, I guess, before it is implemented. And has that happened?
No, nothing has happened so far, actually.
Okay. And I'm wondering, I don't know if Angela can answer, if any of that process has been affected by COVID or anything.
So, well, not necessarily by COVID, but to backtrack a little bit, the the commission has submitted one memo of recommendation to the mayor's office that was submitted a couple weeks ago regarding some clarifications that's needed in the equity agenda. One of the recommendations involved that many of these reports that are due to the Common Council don't have deadlines. So it's not very clear as to when. It's just an annual requirement of certain departments. But aside from the asset map that's due September 1st, which I do know is actually in the works, nothing else has a very clear deadline. And in order for the commission, like if the commission were to receive those reports after they're submitted to the Common Council, that would be very helpful, but we just don't know when they will be. Additionally, this additional report that is due by the commission for September 21st that hits on 4 themes, that's due the 21st. And the issue with that is while we are trying to get the data, the commission is on hiatus over the summer, so that 9/21 date is a little bit close to the hiatus. So if that report were to continue, my personal recommendation would be, in order to give the commission sufficient time to review any data that is submitted, that date be pushed back a little bit more down the road from the hiatus.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the September 21st date was selected, or why September 21st, and if that is in some way supposed to fit into the council's consideration of the budget and capital investment and things like that, which if it were, then September 21st doesn't make sense. And I don't know why that date was particularly picked and what it was meant to influence. So I was never sure of that.
I think it'd be great if we could just take a good look at this equity agenda and revise it and just make sure that it is accurate, transparent, and doable.
Okay. Just Angela, you referred to reports that don't have any deadlines. Can you tell me what reports that that would be coming to the council that would
just
be
give me
going?
1 quick second to pull up the code. Okay, so this is going to be in section 183, chapter 183, 2 for under equitable budgeting. So A1 discusses the street scale document.
Right.
That would come from DGS and the Division of Engineering, and there's no clear deadline on that.
That should be given to us around the time that it should, as maybe Ginny can, confirm, but that should accompany the mayor's budget, which is submitted to us on October 1.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's not clear in the equity agenda where that happens.
Right. Then the A2, section A2 is the asset map, and that is due September 1, and I've confirmed with the Recreation Department that they're working on that. Subsection 3 here, the annual assessment of lighting does not have a deadline, although I do know that they report on it. It's not indicated here as to when that would be due.
Yeah, I don't know. Frankly, I don't know if there is a report on that. It was, and I had suggested that we might want to do that, but it's just, someone assesses something and no one tells us.
Yeah, and then subsection 4 as well regarding DGS and trash receptacles, and subsection 5.
Yeah, I recommended something like that also, that there be some kind of a reporting requirement, but there is really no reporting requirement there.
Right, and I think some of the misunderstanding based on some of these conversations I've been having is that I think there might be this misunderstanding that this part of the equity agenda, these reports are actually that are due to the Common Council. I think there is the misconception that they go to the commission. And that actually is not the case. We certainly, the way that the commission and I had discussed it is that after these reports were submitted to the Common Council, I could certainly take that step and request that data from the Common Council and have it then submitted to the commission, but it doesn't go to the commission directly.
Yeah, and in some cases,
regardless of where it goes, we haven't received any reports. So that's the bottom line for me.
Right, and in some cases, there actually are no reports, like on trash and lighting, that we get.
And on my end,
Go ahead.
so I have been working on a template of what this could look like if I were to make this request to the departments just to try to get this done. And I mean, I don't know how many people know the code inside out and don't know that we don't have the, like, that they're obligated to report it to us. So I am working on that template. It's just a matter of if we'll actually get the data when I request it from the departments. And I know that the mayor is supportive of that. It's just that it's got to get into the works, and I am working on that template. It's just one of many things going on.
Okay. Going back to the September 21st report, and I think there's a question about that date, if it makes sense and what it's supposed to mean anyway. But the commission's assessment of, capital investment, et cetera, that is just information you're not going to have on September 21st. And I'm just wondering if they're going to give us what they're supposed to give us, but they have to be very retrospective in terms of what they give, so you can measure going back to the present and moving forward what the investments are. But there's a lot there.
Yeah. Another clarification or some additional information I would like to provide, though, and this is back to Dr. Robinson's point about the training that she has requested. The mandatory workplace harassment training is a New York State standard, and I am working on getting that every employee in compliance by October 9th, which would be the annual deadline. And the education on diversity, the diversity training, which is mandated by both the equity agenda and another section of the city code, is being worked on. And that being that there was no concrete number deadline on there, I presumed it was going to be December 31st. So I'm going to get that diversity training done through for all of our employees by then. Mandatory training on EEO compliance and how to file a complaint is baked into our workplace harassment, sexual harassment prevention training. And that's also, so that's baked into that training. So that's kind of two birds with one stone. And then the whistleblower education, I do believe there have been discussion with the HR department about doing that training, but that's as far as we've gotten with that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just want to just address a couple of things that Richard talked about and possible solutions real quick. Dealing with the New York State Division of Human Rights and reporting, and the Commission on Human Rights not receiving reports and things of that sort. And other council members can chime in on this as well. Would it behoove us to advocate for that, for an MOU between the Commission on Human Rights, the city, and the New York State Division on Human Rights?
We've done that already. They don't want an MOU.
Oh, they don't want an MOU.
We've done that 3 times already. They're not interested in having an MOU with the city of Albany at all, period.
I guess we won't revisit that then. They're saying absolutely not. Okay. And then also we're dealing with the equity agenda. And so one of the main things about the equity agenda, it doesn't really spell out what reports are required to be submitted. And so I think that is something for us as the council to get together to figure out what reports need to be submitted. And Dr. Robinson, what supports do you suggest be submitted?
You said what reports?
Yeah, what type of reporting do you suggest be submitted for the Commission on Human Rights review?
Well, one of the main reports I would like to see is the employment data, and I've asked for that previously, and that's the demographics, as far as race, gender, employment, such as job titles, as far as management. I think that's important data for us to have to really look at through an equity lens. That's certainly important. I know when we first was pushing, or folks are talking about the equity agenda, they talked about the roads and the infrastructure, and that was part of the automatic reporting that actually was verbalized in regards to the equity agenda. And I do think that is important. I do know now that in our areas we see roads being done I think that data as well. But most certainly that employment data, I really would love to see that employment data is very important.
Okay. Other council members, any questions, comments?
Well, I'm going to follow up on that, Jamel. Have you requested that information, Dr. Robinson,
Which information?
about the employment, the demographics?
Yes.
And they
Yes.
haven't given it to you?
I requested it probably like numerous times, and we haven't had it.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so there, point of clarification there, that's a little bit on me. We do have that data available, but it wasn't good data until last year, because previously it had been garbled up in our system and we had to spend some time cleaning it up. It's the EEOC data. So every odd number year, we do submit this data to the EEOC. So it's been cleaned up and it is something that I can provide, and it's just been it's on me. It just hasn't been a report that I've produced as often as I should have, but in conversation about this with the Commissioner of Administrative Services, it is now set in my calendar to every second week of the month, I will be generating that report and submitting it to the Common Council or to the Committee on Human Rights, Commission on Human Rights. It's just, at the same time though, it's not actually required in the equity agenda, so I still think that it should be.
Yeah, but even if, right, and one point of clarification too, even if things are not an equity agenda, the Commission on Human Rights does have the right to ask for these reports. And prior to you, we've asked for them as well. And the very fact that you mentioned the cleanup, we mentioned that in the 16-17 report too, with that EEO4 report. It had a lot of mistakes in it. So I do understand, Angelica, when you say you had to clean it up, because there were a lot of mistakes years ago when they put that out as well. So I appreciate you working on that.
Angelica, can you explain like what mistakes you're talking about? Are you talking about like just missed data?
Well, I'm just gonna butt in for 1 minute. When we received the report, they had folks in the wrong place, far as some folks was in administrative when they weren't, some folks was listed as minorities when they were not. So there were numerous mistakes that made the information invalid and useful for our needs. So Angelica, you can go.
Right, and I guess the software system that we use to enter in employees provided this freedom to create your own fields. And so since then we've restricted that. And so now anybody entering in an employee is limited in their options. But prior to that, you could just kind of fill it in how you wanted. And that type of freedom, I think, led to a lot of errors there. And so we would get these very large error reports of just missing information or miscategorization.
So you solved the problem. You figured it out, right? After you got the report?
Yes, along with a couple of others, it's since been solved. And so it should be
up to date.
A much less gargantuan task to generate these reports. Although, the last time I generated it, there were a couple of errors that still need to be cleaned up. It's a software program that's very prone to human error, unfortunately. And so we just really got to keep training people on how to enter in this data.
All right. And Dr. Robinson, you mentioned there are other divisions in Albany that sends information to the New York State Human Rights.
Yeah, like Schenectady. Schenectady does.
Are there any other groups in Albany itself, or is it Schenectady?
Schenectady is the only other commissioner. I'm speaking about commissions of human rights.
Okay, all right.
So we have Schenectady, Westchester, like I mentioned, they do their own adjudication because they have about 12 lawyers.
They have staff, right?
Right.
Now we have 2 vacancies for the Human Rights Commission.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Just are those council vacancies or are they mayor's vacancies?
Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I've been reminding them about that.
Okay. They owe us a lot in terms of vacancies and appointments.
And Angelica, you said that, what was it, every other Tuesday that report should be coming out?
I've set the reminder for every second Tuesday of the month since the commission meets the 3rd. So that way I can send it to them 1 week in advance.
So is it possible that next report that comes out, you can send it to Michelle to forward to the council?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other council members? Questions, comments? Jenny?
I just wanted to kind of appreciate, share some appreciation for what you do. And I'm also, I guess, a little dismayed by I've always had a lot of hope that we have this Commission on Human Rights, and I'm glad that we're looking at this, because I think that it's really important to make sure that you guys are able to really do what your mission is, because I think we need it. So I appreciate everybody's work going into it, and I'm glad that we're working towards changing some of that, because that's clearly not okay. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other council members? Kelly, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, just two things. One, on the Human Rights Commission thing there. So, some of the suggestions and issues that Dr. Robinson brought up should be addressed. Like, for one, the reports, even though the reports or the complaints go straight to the state commission, I think they should be made aware of them. And I think I've been in and out, so if I listen correctly, that you're not getting notified of the complaints. So I think that actually needs to happen. Even if you can't act on them, certainly you should be made aware as the body locally that's responsible for looking at that. That's the one thing. And then on the equity agenda portion, I think maybe we need to have another meeting to go through and review and tweak and kind of spell out the reporting, the required reports, the required information, and not just a meeting of us, but also a meeting of folks on the administration side that would be responsible for getting that information to us. So if we could try to pull together another meeting to go through that stuff, it'd be helpful, because I mean, the equity agenda is only as good as the paper it's written on and the way we use it. And if we're missing information and whatnot that don't enable us to use it and utilize it to the fullest, because we're talking about equity. We want to make sure these things are being done. You don't know what we need to do until we know what's being done, and we need those reports to establish that. So I think we ought to revisit that and pull the folks in responsible for getting that information to us. That's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Any other council members or anyone else? I know Rosie joined us. Is Rosie, do you want to chime in on anything?
Hello, thank you everyone for having us here tonight. I just want to amplify everything that Dr. Robinson said. The commission is completely in support of really being able to help support the council and the city of Albany make, the equity agenda, the equity plan come to fruition. But we just need your help to be able to do that. As Dr. Robinson, has mentioned, none of us are trained statisticians. We don't have a contract line or a budget line in order to really, make this data workable. So in order to be able to easily interpret the data, we're going to need some support in order to be able to do that. So thank you for having us tonight and listening to our concerns. And we're interested and open to any recommendations that you have for us about our part in this and how we can hopefully make things better.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Rosie.
Also,
Okay.
Councilman Robinson, I think too, if we revise the equity agenda and make sure that it is a workable agenda, it will eliminate any type of division, because I feel division when we are or should be partnering together. So I think if we fix that piece, when we do come up with a recommendation for something, at least we have some cohesion. We may not always agree on everything, but that cohesion, I think where we are right now is creating is creating distinction amongst some folks. So if we can just repair that, because we got a lot of work to do. So if we move this piece out, then we can move further together. Even when I'm speaking, I go out my way to mention how much I appreciate Angelica, because I do appreciate her, but I want her to know we're together. We're not, on separate ends and opponents. We're working together. So we need to fix this piece.
Okay, yeah, so I definitely will be in touch. I believe that what Councilman Kimbrough said about setting up a follow-up meeting to really examine the equity agenda to make it work how it's supposed to work is something that has to be done. So we'll definitely do that. I don't have anything else, 6:30. So, Dr. Poliers joined us.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing, Dr. Poliers? We were just discussing the equity agenda and some of the concerns with it regarding the reporting. I know that Richard, Councilman Conti, had some questions regarding it. So since you're here, I don't know, Richard, if you want to maybe ask some questions that will bring some clarity to what your concerns were or anything?
No, I just think some clarification. I mean, some relates to you, the commission and others getting the material they need to do the reports. But that's probably something we need for have a more detailed discussion at a separate time.
Okay.
So is there a question on not, is there, I'm confused. Richard, do you have any specific questions? I'm happy to address them, or if you want to talk.
No. I mean, I raised those a while back. So I need to head off. I apologize. Because I have another meeting I have to be at.
Okay. Thank you so much. And we were just about to adjourn the meeting. Dr. Poliers, I didn't know if you had anything to say about the equity agenda, or I don't know when you came in the meeting, so I don't know how much you heard about it.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch a lot of the meeting, and I'm sorry for not being a part earlier. I just heard of the meeting, but that being said, I'm happy to assist in any way. So if there are, Councilman Robinson, we can talk offline so that I can get a recap as to what was discussed, what the issues were, and then maybe work through you to answer any questions or provide any clarity. And then for a future meeting, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thanks for attending. Thank you, Dr. Brenda Robinson, for all the work you do. Thank you, Angelica, for the work you do. And thank you, Rosie Love, and all the commissioners for the work. Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.